Starting from. All right, so we're gonna begin now. Good morning to our panelists. This is
Hold on, you're going to play a recording?
Yes, we're gonna play a recording.
Go ahead.
Video on our presentation on mitigating security risks and credit union fraud in Jamaica by the use of remote payment mechanism in conjunction with COVID-5. So our group members are Malik McLean, Omario Harrison, Daniel Chambers, Alexander McIntosh, and this is an overview of what we'll be going throughout our presentation. So starting off with chapter 1, introduction. So credit unions were small financial institutions in the 1850s in Germany to aid those lacking access to financial services, the opportunity to borrow from savings pooled by themselves and their fellow members. In the Caribbean, where credit unions have a 65% penetration rate, leaders of those institutions have been coping with economic and governance challenges presented by COVID-19. COVID-19 has caused this last and new challenge to all institutions worldwide. So according to Rodriguez, in an article entitled COVID-19 Response Committee Assesses Worldwide Credit Union Challenges published in 2020, common potential needs of credit unions include better financial stabilization plans, digital transformation, greater access to payment system networks, financial education, and better advocacy efforts. So our problem statement is small financial institutions in Jamaica, like credit unions, have difficulty pivoting to secure online and mobile platforms during the pandemic. So the purpose of this research is to evaluate the implementation of a web credit union application that is COVID-5 compliant. The area of focus will be primarily on the use of control objectives for information and related technology, otherwise known as COBIT, in achieving this as it addresses the information security duties required to keep systems secure. So research questions are, to what extent can COVID-5 principles aid in the effective implementation of a secure credit union web application in Jamaica? To what extent, our second one would be, to what extent can implementation of COVID-5 compliant credit union web application assist in the reduction of risk of internal fraud? So for this research, the study will help educate credit unions staff to gravitate towards the new advanced technology framework of a COVID-5 compliant web application, which includes both improved security and increased efficiency in the new business model to survive during the COVID-19 pandemic, which will further generate more financial gains and create a lower risk profile. So the limitations. In this research, information security management were delimited. IT security management is concerned with making decisions to mitigate risk. Governance determines who is authorized to make decisions. And additionally, IT management ensures that controls are implemented to mitigate these risks. Management recommendations, security strategies, and intends to guarantee the availability, integrity, and confidentiality of an organization's data, information, and IT services. So moving forward to chapter 2, I'll turn over to my other group member. Go on.
Good morning, panelists. I'll be doing the literature review. All right, what is COBIT? COBIT stands for Control Objective for Information and Related Technology. It is a framework created by the ISACA for IT governance and management. It was designed to be a supportive tool for managers and allows bridging the crucial gap between technical issues, business risks, and control requirements. COBIT at origination was originally conceptualized with a focus on auditing in the era of information technology in 1996. The scope has evolved over years. In its latest release, COBIT 5 of 2012, the scope and focus is on holistic governance and management of enterprise IT. This most recent edition provides for an end-to-end business view of the governance of enterprise IT that reflects the central role of information and technology in creating value for enterprise. According to ISA-CA, COBIT 5 provides a comprehensive, holistic framework that helps enterprises to achieve their goals and deliver value through effective governance and management of enterprise IT. COBIT 5 builds and expands on COBIT 4.1 by integrating other major frameworks, standards, and resources, including ISACA, VAL IT, and RISC IT, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, and related standards from the International Organization for Standardization, like ISO 38500, Corporate Governance of IT. Governance and management are the two main features that are needed by COBIT 5 to ensure that all 5 principles are met within an organization. The 5 principles of COBIT 5 include meeting the stakeholders' needs, covering the enterprise end-to-end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling a holistic approach, 5 principles separating governance from management. Additionally, COBIT 5 has been improved to assist enterprise in the following areas: assure information is accurate to support business decisions, achieve strategic goals by using IT assistance, maintain operational excellence by using technology efficiently, keep IT-related risks at an acceptable level, optimize IT services and technology, in addition to maintaining compliance with relevant laws and regulations. COBIT 5 versus other frameworks. Indeed, no other framework only focuses on enterprise IT while offering numerous business objectives. Moreover, it contains the best idea in enterprise governance and management techniques. On the other hand, it integrates other frameworks in order to cover more whole enterprise activities, such as PMBOK and Prince2 for the project management, ITEL for the management of system information, TOGAF for IT architecture, COSO for the internal control, and the ISO standards. All right, that's
Good
the
day,
end.
panelists.
Methodology. This chapter describes the research methodology applied to this study. The research methods and procedures that were used will be explained, as well as the data collection instruments along with their limitations. The study requires an understanding of information technology governance frameworks to identify how efficient the introduction of COBIT 5 is towards reducing enterprise risk in credit unions in Jamaica. The research design employed by this project is applied science. Applied research was a step in the research life cycle in which we understood how well we use our knowledge to engineer a system to solve a pressing problem and generate predictable outcomes. This method allows the gathering of in-depth data while allowing meaningful interpretation of the data and the solution being evaluated. This method also applies both qualitative and quantitative research methods. Next slide. The population sample. The targeted population for this research will include individuals that work in credit unions within Jamaica. The total sample size of this research is 10, in which all should work within the credit union environment. The sampling methods. Random sampling methods were applied to this research to obtain applicants for the questionnaires to provide an unbiased representation of the total population. Procedures for data collection. Data collection procedures were achieved by showing the prototype to the individuals adhering to the COVID-19 practices. The questionnaire distribution. A Google form was used to distribute the questionnaires in which the link had a brief title and description of the study. In addition, the data collection was open for 2 weeks to allow responses. Data analysis. The information collected from the questionnaire were presented using graphs and charts in addition to being discussed. Ethical consideration. The researchers guaranteed the honesty and security of the information gathered by adhering to the University of Technology Jamaica research policies, as well as by implementing several measures. Initially, content must be agreed on before participation in the study. Participants were also given full knowledge of the research being conducted. It was ensured that no identifying information was shared in the questionnaire and stored in a Google account with only researchers having access. The tools and resources used. The tools and resources used in the successful deployment of this application include Visual Studio Code, Laravel, Composer Aids, Microsoft SQL Server, FileZilla Client, XAMPP Control Panel, GitHub, and cPanel namespace. Application development setup environment. Visual Studio Code, Laravel Composer, XAMPP Control Panel, and SQL Server were used in the development, and they hosted the website locally, developed and performed SQL operations. Furthermore, FileZilla was used to upload the website onto the cPanel file manager and then online. Next slide. After the successful uploading, the credit union system online and is accessible to everyone with the link. All right, so here we have the features that the credit union banking application currently have. As you can see, the seller supervisor or manager interface has the bank deposit, payment methods, manage withdrawal, investor management, customer support, deposit management, complete deposit, fixed deposit. They have the ability to view dashboards, loan management, loan request approval. Moving on. The administrator interface includes viewing dashboard, user management, support, role assignment, and verification of users. The user interface consists of view of client dashboard, transfer, e-currency transfer, fixed deposit, loan history, loan package, bill history, bill request, account statement, transaction history, account settings, e-deposit, and support. Seller interface. The view of seller interface, you have the dashboard, manage withdrawal, view all transactions, manage bills, deposits, fixed deposit, bank deposits, and support. Compatibility. The system is compatible with any device that can be connected to the internet for the client side of the website. For seller supervisor, manager, and administrator, all required to be accessed on a local network which the bank owns. Data storage and retrieval. The data retrieval of the system is displayed into a user-friendly dashboard based on who is using the system. The data is all stored in the SQL database, which can only be accessed by using the cPanel password, where the database is stored securely. During the development phase, data utilized in the web application will be stored in a secure secure password SQL database in which credentials will be hashed to ensure information is kept secure.
All right, so one may ask why COVID-5 was chosen for creating a credit union web application, and how does this web application applies to COVID-5. So COVID-5 was chosen for this application because it is almost a monopoly in terms of governance and management. Indeed, no other framework only focuses on enterprise IT while offering numerous business objectives. So moreover, it contains the latest idea of enterprise governance and management techniques, and other hand, it integrates other frameworks in order to cover more whole enterprise activities. So secondly, COVID-5 has a process reference model, meaning that stakeholder needs are transformed into specific goals and into IT-related goals, and finally towards enabler goals that define concrete IT processes. In other words, it allows an alignment to enterprise needs with detailed IT activities. So here's a diagram from where stakeholder drivers, those with environment, technology, and evolution, which influence stakeholder needs. This is basically the cycle of which stakeholder drivers get turns out into IT-related goals and into enabler goals. So stakeholder drivers are environmental factors, as what was stated in the previous slide on the diagram. Factors, technology, and the need for evolution are what brings stakeholder needs. So in our project, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused losses of credit union in Jamaica, also the transformation of business process with the aid of the transformation of technology, those would be the stakeholder needs. The prototype was drafted and created to solve these issues, that is to have a secure system that can perform most business processes online to minimize the risk of the pandemic and for ease of access. So stakeholder needs are to be related to enterprise goals. These goals are weighted and prioritized for implementation. However, this prototype includes the basic functions of what a daily credit union would do on a daily basis, to name a few: loan management and deposits. So enterprise goals cascade to IT-related goals are achieved in our project by having a system that has role-based features for security purposes, activity log tracking, transaction tracking, achieving business goal processes that are necessary, all of which is done securely. So so above shows the IT-related goals cascade to enabler goals taken from COVID-5 implementation. So which is basically checking to see if the solution that was done is feasible, to see if the stakeholder goals are, if they actually make sense for an IT development. So above, this shows the explanation of all processes working together to create an execution cycle to create IT goals. So COVID-5 principles that relates back to our project, all 5 of them did relate back. So meet stakeholder needs. This was done in our prototype by using the stakeholder drivers to create stakeholder needs and then evaluate them to see the best outcomes. So covering the enterprise end-to-end, COVID-5 covers all business processes that will take place in our prototype and its IT functions. So applying a single integrated framework, COVID-5 was the chosen framework because of its implementation, because of its governance and management and IT functionality. So enabling a holistic approach, this was achieved in our prototype by taking into consideration the components that interact, such as services, infrastructure, applications, people skills, and competencies. Separating governance and management, which was done by using the enablers model. So turning over to other group member for our findings for chapter 4.
Good day. I'm Alexander McIntosh. I'll be doing the findings, and from the research carried out by the group, the following findings were made. Question 1 asks, based off the prototype that is shown of a mobile application using COVID-5, what goals have the prototype met? In this bar graph, all 10 respondents agreed that the prototype met the goal to reduce data security risks. 5 respondents chose that the prototype had better tracking of the performance of IT, also improved service delivery, among other. The least voted was monitoring return on investment, only being selected by 2 respondents. Question 2 asked, with internal risks and frauds such as loan fraud, embezzlement, failure to follow procedures, limits, and misuse of confidential information. How would COVID-5 aid in mitigating these activities? From the pie chart above, right here, it depicts the analysis of how COVID-5 is in mitigating fraudulent activities. With a multiple choice question, single answer, where it can be seen that 4 respondents chose very likely. Also, 4 respondents chose moderately likely, both having 40%. The remaining 2 respondents chose neither likely nor unlikely, having 20%. Question 3 asks, credit unions in the Caribbean, including Jamaica, according to COVID-19 response committee, assesses worldwide credit union challenges are faced with digital transformation. Furthermore, with technology, it streamlines processes and automates business activities. Will a new business model involving a mobile application better improve productivity, decision making, and encourage economic growth? From figure 3, the pie chart was shown to depict that 60% of the respondents selected moderately likely, that's 6 out of 10, with the remaining 40 being shared, 30 and 10 very likely, and neither likely nor unlikely, respectively. Question 4, how interested are you in an application that provides digital transformation, also integrating a security framework that is COVID-5, which aids in business processes and aids in mitigating fraud risks? The pie chart shows that 40% of the respondents stated that they were very interested. The remaining 60% of votes were shared evenly between extremely interested and interested, 30-30. Question 5, which of the following would be a key benefit of IT governance in your organization? The bar graph represents this question, and it shows that all 10 respondents selected better security, 100%. 7 chose greater use of technology, 70%. 3 chose responsiveness of IT, 30%, and improved communication and improved system monitoring had 1 vote, 10%. Now, question 6 and question 7 are both qualitative questions they ask, is there any other feature you would like to see in a mobile application for credit union? These are the answers that were provided. No, some were satisfied, and a feature could add it to be set a saving goal. Life support chat feature. 2-factor authentication could be added. The system could add and selection customer to see the latest updates on the credit union. Question 7, based on the prototype shown, what issues do you think could arise while using the mobile application? From the responses, older users may find it hard to understand the graphical data and the dashboards. The system seems easy to use, no known issue. That means they're satisfied. Some customers may find the system challenging due to the amount of features it currently has. No issues. Gradual involvement of older population. And that would be it for the findings. Oh, sorry. Question 8. To what extent can COVID-5 principles aid in effective implementation of a secure credit union mobile application in Jamaica? 4 responses: can enable a secure system through the use of an integrated security and governance approach. This framework can assist and improve monitoring of business processes, can empower a safe framework using an incorporated security and administration approach. Last, the system can aid further develop observing of business measures. We'll move on to chapter 5.
Good afternoon, my name is Mario Harrison. and I will be going over the conclusion and recommendation. Next slide. So the need for governance and management of enterprise IT is without a doubt undisputed, and so too should be the choice of frameworks to use. The COVID-5 framework, there is a practical and available means to govern and manage information with technology. Next slide. In this research, the researchers sought to understand to what extent they sought to discover typo in the to what extent can COVID-5 principles aid in the effective implementation of secure credit union web application in Jamaica? To what extent can the implementation of COVID-5 compliant credit web application assist in the reduction of the risk of internal fraud? As it relates to our research question, the results from our questionnaire aided us in regards to gaining much needed insight as it relates to the implementation of a proposed COVID-5 web application for the Jamaican Credit Union. Next slide. According to question 1 of our questionnaire, when the question was asked about our proposed prototype in regards to the goals that have been met, the following responses were recorded: the optimization of costs and resources, the reduction of data security risk, and more control over IT, which is stated by our respondents as 0% stating not applicable. So with this said, it shows that the respondents are in agreement with the features of the prototype that has been offered as it relates to the security of your system.
So moving forward to the prototype. So basically we have a credit union application where it has roles, as you can see on the screen, from which it has teller, supervisor, manager, administrator, and a teller. So these would be all the features that they are able to do. I'm gonna do a short demonstration of a client requesting a loan online and the process of it being approved. Let me see right here. So we have users already created. So here's a test user. So here would be the user's dashboard. So here you say the latest transaction, which a loan has been processed. So here you can go to loan package. And here we have a demo version, car loans. You can deposit like how much you'd want the loan for. So let's say we want it for this amount, add another 0 to that. Let me see. Yeah, so that loan has been requested. So now we're gonna log out and go over to the teller manager. The person would, here we have a dashboard to show the active users, the total amount of loan deposits, how much money is in the bank, and all of that. So we're going to go to loan management and going to loan requests. So here we have the pending loan from the test users. So here you can go ahead and view that loan and what the loan status is all about, and can change this to approve. So there we have the loan approved. So now we're gonna log back in as the user. So here we see that money has been added to their account. We can also do electronic deposits, like say you want to deposit like a check. So you'd enter the amount that the check is for. So let's say it's for $1,000. So here would just add a comment say like this is a check, like how you deposit a check digitally. So just a test, and then maybe upload like a check image here, and then we said submit payment. So now this, so image, let me say test. So choose this image. So here we have, this has been pending. So we're gonna log out, going back as an admin, as a teller manager. And now we can go into deposits, go all deposits. Now we go bank deposit and pending manual deposits. Here we can approve the user deposit, and that would be accredited to their account. So in the teller section, we have less, not all functionality. Right, so here having time is up, so we're gonna move on to the question and answer section. If they want to see more, if the panelists want to see more about the prototype.
All right, thank you, students, for that. Sorry, I just joined in late, but which faculty is leading the session? Is it Mrs. March, Mr. Udega, Kevin?
I would say Mrs. Mark.
Mrs. March, are you there?
All right, let me begin to ask questions.
Gentlemen in the room.
All right, let me start with the questions and so on.
Not your name.
Is that all right with you, Mrs. March and Julia?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Cool.
hold on a sec, Kevin. Are you hearing us though, Mrs. March?
But I had in my headphone, but it doesn't seem as if you were hearing me when I had in the headphones. So
Oh, okay. We're just making sure that you are on the call though. Like you had some difficulty there. Okay, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Yeah, likewise, I had to unplug my Bluetooth headset to, because it seemed as if it was having some troubles as well. So, interesting presentation, but I have a couple of questions I really want to throw at you guys, right? And so let us go and get into it. All right. What is the importance of this study that you're actually looking at? Because I was trying to scroll through the Word document that you sent me, and I didn't really get I didn't really get much value out of what you had there. So I'm asking you now, what is the importance of this study?
Right, so we have come to recognize that credit unions are small financial institutions that are in small towns in and around Jamaica that doesn't have all the fancy technology that all the banks have. And we're doing some research and we realize that credit unions in the Caribbean, they are suffering greatly. And we have come to a realization that because they're suffering so greatly, it's because of a lack of certain things like lack of transformation of technology and some other factors. So we look forward and we use the COVID-5 framework to create a system that would aid in the transformation of technology that aids in the business process in a secure framework form.
All right, I'm just gonna pause you there for a second, right?
Kevin, just a quick second. While you're paused, can someone just bring up on the screen at the same time the research questions so that we can read them while you're discussing that? You can go ahead, Kevin.
Yes. Based on what you just said a while ago, where did you get all of those arguments from? Did you get it from research? Because it would seem to me, based on what you're saying and what is actually in the document and on the slide, that you are just working with things that you would think you already know. But is it supported by the research that you would have done? No, if it is, then I want you to give me some citations, to show me the real value of this research to begin with.
All right, so here into the introduction, we have according to Rodriguez COVID-19 Response Committee, Worldwide Credit Union Challenges, as I was talking about with the digital transformation.
All right, so according to this person, you got those arguments, right?
Yeah, and also in our document, we had a lot of Caribbean references speaking about the struggles that credit unions faced.
All right, fine. But be careful now, because you're not looking at the Caribbean. You're not looking at the Caribbean, you're looking at Jamaica, right? That's what the topic is about Jamaica, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Good. But I note though, and I want you to go back to that slide, or wherever it is that you actually said that. I noted, because I wrote it down, you said something to the effect that the sample size that you actually use was 10 persons. 10 persons. Now, do you think that 10 persons, do you know how many credit unions are in Kingston as opposed to even Jamaica? Would you think that 10 persons would be sufficient to make any real argument in relation to credit unions on a whole?
So, well, based on the nature of the research, wanted to get individuals who would have information or experience in the credit union. So we reached out to as many persons that we had access to who worked in that area.
But don't you think 10 persons is a little too small for a proper sample size though? That's what I'm asking.
I have to agree that the sample size could have been larger.
All right, hold on a quick sec. What was I came in here late, so forgive me. I'm gonna ask you just to give me some answers to some questions. Was this a qualitative research where you were doing primarily interviews, or was it quantitative, where you were doing a survey questionnaire?
Yeah, it was go ahead, Marlene.
We're using surveys.
Okay, so all right. So if you had done qualitative where this was interviews, a sample size of 10 is actually not questionable in qualitative, because you'd have received the depth through the interviews, but it would still not be able to generalize to the public. It would be very case specific to that person's experience or their environment which they operate in. But if you're going to do a quantitative and propose a sample size of 10, you're asking for trouble. And I think that's what Mr. Johnson is trying to point out to you.
Can I ask a question along that line? What
Go ahead,
were
Mrs. Marsh.
what were the qualifications of these 10 persons? How did you select these 10 people?
The persons that was selected, they had experience working within a credit union, and so they were either workers, supervisors, or managers at the institution.
So just general experience.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just jump back in again. All right. So I want you guys to start to feel a little comfortable, right? This is not a beat down session. We're just asking some questions. All right. So the first thing, relax. I still have some more questions, because I actually took some time to actually look through your document, and I was making some notes and stuff. All right. So in terms of the thing that you just demonstrated, right? What were some of the specifics in relation to COBIT 5 that was actually needed in the creation of this web application?
All right, so.
Can you give me 3?
Pardon, sir?
Can you give me 3? Because throughout the presentation, you kept making reference to principles of COBIT 5. So I'm asking you, give me 3 of those principles that were applied in the implementation of this web application.
So we had the meeting, the stakeholders' needs. We had the covering the enterprise end to end, and then we had a single integrated framework.
and separating governance from management. We also use the enabling process model that COVID-5 has, which would have like stakeholder drivers, which would be like things that would drive for a new system creation. So like, you know that it's COVID-19 pandemic and every single corporate business is losing money. So that would be transferred to stakeholder goals, stakeholder needs and enterprise goals, which they are weighted to for importance, and they're transferred to IT related goals and enabler goals.
Right, I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking back at your first research question, right? And please, let's just give me a minute, all right? Please, I'll wrap this up.
Can you jump back to the research question while you're discussing it, Kevin?
Can I ask a follow-up question to your question, Kevin?
Sure.
So I wanted to ask, how does your system identify internal fraud?
That was one of my things as well.
All right, so in the administration, in the admin, you can see every single transaction that has been made by every single user when it was made. So I'm just going, yeah, it goes as an admin. Oh, wait a second. I'm gonna log in as an admin. So you can see every single thing that has been done. Like even, we were even thinking about like even other day with the NCB fraud incident that happened. If there was like a system that was like keenly auditing and like discovering.
Are you sure that NCB doesn't have such a system though?
Yeah, they would have it, but here we have like the transaction log and what each user has done. You can even here we have users. You can you can view all users and can see what roles they have.
But these are, so let me just stop you a little bit. These are simple queries against a database, right? And most financial systems, in order for them to even be compliant with law and jurisdiction,
that's it,
would have to have these logs in there before they can even operate such a system. So I'm not saying to you that your system isn't doing that. I'm just saying, are you sure that categorically, are you sure that NCB would not have such a system to even be able to operate a financial institution in our jurisdiction?
Yes, sir. They would have a transaction log. So we have a transaction log in our system.
Right, okay. But you know what you said a while ago though is it lead you down a dangerous path, because you were saying if they had something like this in place, then they probably wouldn't have had that fraud incident. We have the best systems in the world, millions and billions of dollars, and everyone is susceptible to security breach. It's just a matter of how hard you make it for perpetrators to do it. But there is no, if there was such a case where we did not have or we had a foolproof system, then we wouldn't need to continuously innovate security. People find a way around these things every day, even just by social engineering. It probably is not a technological way that they actually beat the system, but even by social engineering and getting information from people through unscrupulous methods is a simple way of beating powerful technology. So you have to be careful when you say things like that, that maybe if NCB had something like this, it wouldn't happen, because we don't know how that breach actually occurred. NCB is not going to tell us that either.
Yeah.
No, but I'm following back to what Mr. Johnson was asking. So let me rephrase the question. How did you use COVID-5 to help identify fraud in your system?
Technically. Not from a general theoretical perspective, but
right.
Yeah, can the question be repeated? Wasn't hearing so clearly.
How did your system use COVID-5 to identify fraud, system fraud, especially internal fraud?
Yes, so we have like, here we have like transaction reports, can see what has been done. We also implemented strong role-based assignments in which each individual person's, like we had teller manager slash supervisor and a system admin. So each person would have a different dashboard. So that would, because that would stop them from crossing over into information that they're not supposed to see or not supposed to access.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Johnson, but all right, let me ask you, does the credit union have a system?
The credit unions, some of them, they have a system, but not all of them have online banking systems.
Is this those that have a system, do they have a secure system?
Some of them have a secure system.
And what do you mean by a secure system? What constitutes a secure system, in your opinion, based on the research that you have done? What are the necessary characteristics that will allow us to declare a system secure? And what characteristics out of those that define a system as secure did you find that the credit union financial institutions have or did not have, based on this research?
For some of the credit unions, for them to be able to have a secure system, they would first have to have like different levels of management and governance, where they would have workers at different levels having access to only specific information. In addition to that, to having a secure system, they would have to have like trails of transactions where you know that the manager or external auditor could go and view transactions that were done. So those characteristics would add to having a secure system. They would also have the password protection and so forth.
Yeah, so basically, in general, a secure system would have the mechanism to protect from any type of data loss and unauthorized data being accessed or used or manipulated.
So I just have one final question. How both of your research questions said to what extent? What mathematical analysis did you do to determine to what extent?
Right. How did you measure that? How did you measure the extent? And what elements are you measuring?
All right, so we asked a question that drafted from some of the features that COBIT would have. Here we had some features that COBIT would have, like what goals are met in the prototype. So we have to optimize IT costs, to reduce data security risks, to better track the performance, to monitor the IT return on investment, to ensure the IT projects achieve the goal. That's how we measured it, by the response which we get from our questionnaires. So the second question that asks, to what extent can implementation of COVID-5 compliant credit union web application assist in the reduction of risk and internal fraud? We even asked a question somewhere here about it. So here, so how interested are you in an application that provides digital transformation, also integrated a security framework that is COVID-5, which aids in business processes and aids in mitigating fraud and risk?
All right. So let me help you out a bit. Can you go directly to the research question?
Yeah.
Right. Good. Very good. Look, let's just take number 2. I get enough feedback, by the way. I'm not sure which one of you I'm getting enough feedback from. All right, so it says, to what extent can the implementation of COVID-5 compliant credit web applications assist in the reduction of risk? So first of all, we need to identify in this situation, what does assist mean? And or assist in the reduction mean? Does it mean that we have a rate of breaches that usually occur or instances, and the goal is to reduce it by X percentage? You have to clearly define what you're going to measure to determine if the reduction or it actually has assisted. So I think you need to set those metrics first in what you're going to measure, and then tell us how you're going to measure it. And then you need to ask the questions around those specific things that will know answer, is there or did it actually assist? Is it a case where on a yearly basis we had 10,000 attacks, but only 1,000 are successful, and in the next period, in the following year, we're going to measure it again and see if we have now reduced those amount of attacks by 50%. Even if the person were to actually breach the security and get access, do we have another mechanism that obfuscates the data when they actually get in? So has it reduced data loss or data compromise? You need to specifically outline those metrics as what they will be, so that you can determine if it actually did assist. And I'm not too sure if you guys did that or did something along that line. I'm not saying it has to be exactly what I'm suggesting, but you need to define something very specific to measure, because what you're saying here is too broad, and I don't know if you have actually done anything to measure that. Or even if you're going to leave the research question like this, you'd have to write in a scope or scope of the project to put some delimitations on it to determine what does assist in reduction mean within the scope of this project. Is it less attacks, less breaches, less data loss? You have to define clearly what those things are, because those are the things that you will have to measure to determine if it is successful or if it could be successful using COVID-5.
All right, let me just put something up there. I was looking for, I needed a little bit more substance to in relation to statistics. I wanted, since you're talking about reducing and mitigating risk and so on, I was expecting to hear something more substantive in relation to your research, given that in your research, you would have found that of the 50 credit unions in Jamaica, there are, say, for example, 100 attacks per day, and these are some of the most common attacks, resulting in X amount of money being lost. If you could get that kind of information, and you would give me some statistics to show me that, hey, this is something that we really need to look at in the Jamaican context, right? Because of the potential for financial loss, or even some companies going out of business altogether. So I was expecting a little bit. Now, in relation to the COVID-5 principles, I was expecting you to tell me some of the technical considerations that went into the creation of the artifact, right? I was really expecting you to be able to articulate that. In relation to what Dr. Jarrett just said, that is also very important, that when you're writing these questions, to say to what extent can COVID-5 principles aid in the effective implementation of a secure credit union web application in Jamaica? First of all, I think that question is kind of broad, okay, looking at Jamaica, yet still you only had a sample size of 10, which I'm assuming now was only taken from maybe 1 or 2 credit union companies, and not from a Jamaica perspective, which means credit unions strewn all over the 14 parishes of Jamaica. And that's why I was saying earlier about the significance of the study and so on, right? So it's a little broad, and I am not so sure how you actually went about measuring. And are you saying that credit union systems as it is right now are not secured and would need this system to bring them up to a certain level of security?
So, so
No, sir, we're not saying this. All the credit unions are not secure.
yeah, to just in our broader lit review, we had some statistics of frauds that occur, but guess those are also broad. And what we are trying to implement, we come to notice that even spoke with the guys at even Edicom at UTech, and we even Googled and check if maybe they have like a better let me see. I'm not sure the word that I can put there, but we're trying to implement a secure system that credit unions can use for their business processes that is secure under the COVID-5 principles.
So, all right, let me tell you, just looking at the system that you developed, I can see that you have put work into the system, right? It's a nice user interface. It seems as if it has some nice workflows, and you guys seem as if you are good developers from a functional perspective. But the demo that you have given to us still does not tie back in with this. This could have been done independent of COVID-5. What you showed us is just some functional requirements of a system. We're not necessarily seeing the objective of the research questions coming out in that this is a secure implementation of a web application that can be used. What have you done to test the security of this system? That's kind of what I think everybody is trying to get. We see that you developed a system. It querying the database. You're submitting queries. You're retrieving data. You're able to have the data in a workflow. That's fine, but I'm not too sure if we're seeing the security aspect of the system. What about it is secure, and how did it tie back into your research question that says that you're using COVID-5 to drive the secure implementation of that system? And I think that's where we're having the disconnect.
All right, so first thing first, COVID is not just like a security framework, right? It has to do with like properly creating business processes and how new functionality and new things would come into place to be created. So as in the enabler process where it moved from one step to another and items are being prioritized. Also in our system, we didn't test it up against any fancy security features, but we have roles in it, which if a user should type in like just log in and type in a URL that they're not being able to access, it would basically tell them that, hey, this is forbidden, and it would stop them from going to that page. So like if a teller wants to access a teller manager feature, it would basically stop them. Would basically say forbidden unauthorized access.
Mr. Chambers.
Yes,
in the interest of time. Okay, so when you started out, you talked about cybersecurity is looking at persistent threats, cyber warfare, and its impact on individuals. So you talk about persistent threats and cyber warfare. A warfare is not something that happens now and in the split of a second and don't happen again. Your system did not demonstrate the kind of security that you set us up to expect. Also, your population were all the credit unions in Jamaica. So as Dr. Jarrett said, the only way for you to pull 10 from that is unless you were going to go into those credit unions, pick the best IT people from those credit unions, and you do an analysis with those people, and they're the focus of your study.
Right.
So what you have presented to us I am sure, I am going to put my neck on the block and say, I am sure it exists in the credit union and it exists to a larger extent in the credit union. And therefore, you need to say to us, how are you improving on what they have? What are you adding to what they have or don't have? What are you adding that will make things better for them? And we're not getting that. So just you continuing to justify what you have done is not going to change our focus. One of the questions I had was, are there other frameworks out there? What are the credit unions currently using? Because it could be you focused only on COBIT, but for me to be convinced, I want you to compare what else is out there and how they stack up. And that table with that comparison would have just jumped out at me and showed me the information.
All right, so yeah, so on this slide, we had the option why we choose COBIT. It was chosen because
Now, why you chose COBIT? What else is out there?
Excuse me. So within the literature review for the written documentation, we have a few sections that speaks about other frameworks such as the ITIL and ISO, and the reason why COBIT would stand out over them, even though COBIT 5 is a newer framework. So it shows a comparison within the literature.
All right, gentlemen, we would love to stay and chat all day, but we have other groups to attend to. So thank you so much for your presentation. And we are going to use the next 5 minutes or so to fill out those online forms. All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Mr. Johnson, I'm not too sure how you are conducting the session, but are they free to leave, or what is it? Are they free to leave? Do we have another group next?
Yes, they are free to leave.
Okay.
I think we should have another group.
Or in the interest of time, can the other group, or who is the presenter or the main person controlling the screen, can you set up in the